Hello Keith, I am Justin.
Well, hello Justin, it's very nice to meet you.
What has your life been like since you started living in an assisted living care home?
Well, I am getting by. I have been very lonely since my husband, Sam, passed away. My children are grown up and living their own lives now. There's nothing left for me to do because I was a stay-at-home mom and the kids can take care of themselves now. Assisted living is helpful for me because it's hard for me to get some things done due to my arthritis. Also, I had some knee surgery done and got an infection in the hospital which has left me a bit weak.
I noticed that you are wearing hearing aids. How long have you been using them for?
I have been wearing them for almost a year now. They were uncomfortable, but I am trying to get used to them.
Can you tell me about your life before you started wearing them?
Yes. Before I wore hearing aids, socializing was quite stressful. It was frustrating talking to anyone because I could not hear what they were saying most of the time, especially when there was noise in the background. It was easier to hear my son because he has a low-pitched voice, but it was difficult to hear my daughter.
Can you tell me what your life is like now that you have hearing aids?
It is still difficult to hear sometimes. I can hear everything with my hearing aids and it can be difficult to concentrate on one conversation, especially when there is a lot of noise in the background. I am glad we chose to meet during a less busy time in the cafe, when it is quieter. With the hearing aids I have become more confident and am able to socialize again. Being able to hear has allowed me to partake in the care home activities, such as going for walks with the residents and volunteering. I feel like I am part of a community now and not just a burden to my caregivers.
I am glad to hear that the hearing aids have helped you. You mentioned that you suffered from an infection which extended your hospital stay for your knee surgery. Can you tell me how your health suffered after you were discharged from the hospital?
After staying at the hospital, it took me a few months to feel like I had my strength back. I have noticed that I need more assistance to do daily activities as my knee is still weak. I often feel tired after an hour or less of activity and need to rest, whereas before I could socialize and be active for around 4 hours without feeling exhausted. I suppose it is normal to feel tired at my age, but I think the surgery and infection has taken a toll on my body.
What do you have to do differently now in your daily activities after your stay in the hospital?
I have just started to go for my walks again. I just take shorter walks now and less often than before. There are some days I feel weaker, so I ask the care aides for more assistance. This happens when I experience shortness of breath and other pains. I have arthritis in my hands, and some days it makes simple chores such as folding clothes difficult for me. I am lucky to live in a care home in which I can receive assistance for tasks that are difficult for me to do on my own.
What did your doctor recommend to help prevent further decline in your health?
My doctor encourages me to continue with daily exercise to help with my strength and balance. Like I mentioned, I try to go for walks regularly. I also participate in water aerobics classes, but they are only available once a week at the local swimming pool. He also has encouraged me to maintain a healthy diet ever since I experienced weight loss during my hospital stay.
Were you able to receive money from your husband's pension?
Yes, I do. I had no pension plan but was able to apply for my husband's plan after his death. I get about 60% of his pension, and I recently learned that I would be able to keep my pension plan even if I remarried. I always thought I would lose my pension if I remarried, but I am glad to know that this will not be the case if I do.
Earlier you mentioned you liked to do water aerobics. Would you like to do more activities like that?
Oh yes, I would like to, if they do not cost too much. Since I was a stay-at-home mom, I had no pension and I have to rely on my husband's pension. Leisurely activities are expensive, so it is hard for me to afford them.
Before living in the care home, who were you living with?
I lived with my husband until he passed away 2 years ago. My children live in their own homes.
Do your children ever come and visit you?
Yes, they do. My daughter comes to visit me at least once a week, but my son hardly ever visits. I will see him at least once a month if I am lucky.
How is your relationship with your children?
My daughter and I have always been close. Since she started having children, I get to see her more than ever. I also get to see and visit my grandchildren a lot. My son and I also have a good relationship, but he is very busy with his career, so I do not get to see him as often.
Yes, work seems to get in the way of spending time with loved ones.
Would you mind if we moved our conversation to the park across the street? My knee is getting stiff.
Could you tell me how life has been for you in assisted living since your husband passed away?
After Sam passed away, I felt really stressed. I went through a rough time. Despite the help I got from my children, I was faced with tough decisions about what to do with my home, and whether I would continue living on my own or in assisted living. It took me some time to make my decision. I was depressed at the time, but I feel I made the right decision to live in assisted living.
Why do you think assisted living is better for you?
The reason why I moved was because of how depressed I felt after losing Sam. Arthritis made doing chores difficult, and it was hard for me to live on my own. Even though my children visited occasionally, I was alone most of the time. I was lonely and my friends had either moved or passed away. Assisted living seemed like the best solution.
If you don't mind me asking, could you tell me about your depression after your husband passed away?
Yes, I don't mind. Well, after Sam's death, I found it harder to get out of bed each morning. I just wanted to sleep all day. When I was awake, alcohol was the only thing that helped me cope. I barely ate and began to lose a lot of weight. It was a hard time in my life and my health declined during the time. It got to the point where I would ask myself, what is the point of living anymore? Who was I even living for? One night, I even thought about taking a lot of sleeping pills. That is when my children helped me decide that it was time for me to move into an assisted living care home.
How has assisted living helped you overcome your depression?
Living in the care home forced me to meet new people and make new friends. At home, I was so lonely and felt isolated. This helped me overcome my depression and I am a lot better now.
I want to better understand how you dealt with the death of your husband. This may be a difficult topic of discussion for you, so feel free to stop me anytime. How did your husband die?
My husband, Sam, died 2 years ago from lung cancer. He had not smoked in years, but the doctors say that smoking was probably the cause for it.
Can you tell me what it was like to go through the journey of losing your husband?
It was one of the hardest times in my life. Watching Sam struggle to breathe was scary and the whole ordeal gave me anxiety. As his condition worsened, I began to grieve even before he passed away. I stopped taking care of myself and this made it hard for me to look after Sam. It was very stressful.
Where did Sam pass away? Was it at home or in the hospital?
We kept Sam at home as long as we could, but he spent the last few weeks in hospice care. I am extremely thankful for all the amazing staff that provided him with care there. I was struggling a lot, and they were very knowledgeable of the process. This was helpful for me, Sam, and my family as well. I think Sam was relieved because he felt a lot of the burden was taken off me. Sam also said he was not in a lot of pain, and I am thankful the hospice was successful in managing his pain.
After Sam passed away, did you participate in any rituals of life-to-death transition?
Yes, Sam was buried at the cemetery near my house. We had a beautiful funeral. My kids planned a wake afterwards, where people shared some lovely memories of him. I found the funeral to be healing. It helped me come to terms with the fact that Sam was physically gone. It also allowed me to see the importance of his life through others. Also, I received lots of social support which gave me some strength.
How has Sam's death changed you?
Well, I think that I have become reliant on others more.
Let us change the subject now. I know that you have a twin brother called Don. Do you still stay in touch?
Yes. I usually call him on the phone almost every other day. We are very close. Since his wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he retired early to take care of her. So I try to visit and help him whenever I can.
That's great.
I will have to leave now. It's almost time for my water aerobics class.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview.